Is I'm not sure. Okay, is someone's mic on? Because I can hear no one's mic is on, right? Okay. All right. So, okay. It's a bit weird because I'm hearing different noises, but no one's mic is on. But it's okay. Let's go back into the session. Okay, sorry for that. So you can see now this network of tubule opens to the outside of the animal, opens into the body wall, and from that body wall it gets into the outside of the animal, right? So that's how this actually now in the flame cell, the flame cells are the excretory structures of the flatworms. So basically, you just have to know how to describe a flame cell. They will ask you what are flame cells in your SCQ. So you can what do you call mark a star in that particular color that you have chosen. What are flame cells? Flame cells are specialized ciliated excretory cells connected to a network of tubules which opens to the outside of the animal, right? So you have to learn this definition. What are they? They are specialized and they are ciliated, and they are what? They are excretory cells, and they are connected to what? They are connected to a tubule which opens to where? To the outside of the animal, right? So example is flatworms, right? Okay, now let's go for nephridia. They are multicellular tubular structures. They will ask you what is nephridia. You have to say nephridia are multicellular tubular structures that is present in whom? That is present in annelids for excretion. You have to complete your own definition for that, right? That is present in annelids for excretion, right? And if you want, you can keep on explaining as well if you're not sure about the answer that you're given, because they haven't given a proper definition, right? Okay, so you can see they also have a collecting duct. We also have a collecting duct. Here there is an external opening, as you see. Here there is an internal opening to collect the waste products, and it goes through this collecting duct and finally into the external opening. In annelids, we know they do not have their body cavity is actually called coelom. They do not have this interstitial fluid or anything like that, right? Their body cavity is coelom. They have a bladder. This is their bladder. This is their capillary network. This diagram is also important for labeling. So there are two parts that you need to study over here. What are nephridia and the structure of the nephridia, right? So nephridia, you have to learn the coelom present in the coelom is like the cytoplasm. Now if you take a cell like this, now these are not cells, these are actually compartments of the annelids, right? So coelom is the body cavity, right? If you have learned in unit 3 about the what do you call diploblastic, triploblastic, there you have learned about coelom, right? So coelom is present in triploblastic organisms, right? So collecting duct, you have to label this as the collection of tubules as the collecting duct. Here, which is open to the outside, is the external opening. Here, internal opening. Here, bladder, capillary network. Even if they ask you to draw it like this. Draw 3 compartments like this, and then draw the external opening, draw a bladder like this, draw some tubules like this, and also in the tubule you can draw something over here. It means coming from the tubules you can draw the internal opening, right? You can draw a small sketch to explain that, to show that, but the labeling is the important part over here. When you're studying for biology, you need to get ready with everything in your RB and go. Don't keep any doubts in your RB. Make sure you practice everything in your RB and you're going to the exam, right? Okay. Then we're going to learn about the Malpighian tubules. Malpighian tubules, the first thing is you need to know the definition here also. They are extensive blind end tubules immersed in hemolymph, right? You can see now these are, now we are the people who have blood, right? In our, that means blood means, yeah, we're the people who have blood, hemoglobin, we have blood, and humans have blood, right? But these animals, arthropods and mollusca, they have hemolymph. Arthropods and mollusca, they have hemolymph, right? As the interstitial fluid, they have hemolymph, right? So these are extensive blind end tubules, right? Blind end means they are closed end, right? closed-end tubules immersed in hemolymph, and they open into the digestive tract. Who are the ones which have this type of excretory structure? They are the insects. Insects means also type of arthropod. There can be aquatic marine arthropods as well, right? But insects and other terrestrial arthropods are the ones which have Malpighian tubules, right? Okay. Now let's go for the questions. Before going for the questions, let's do this part also, and then let's go for the questions, okay? Green glands or antennal glands. Two large glands found ventrally in the head anterior to the esophagus. This was asked in a SCQ in 2022. SCQ in 2002. So what I said was correct, right? If they could ask the position of this, won't they ask the definitions of those things? They would repeat that, right? Okay. So what are these green glands? They are large glands. They are found ventrally in the head and anterior to the esophagus, right? Anterior to the esophagus. Where are they found? In crustaceans, right? Like crabs. Crabs are crustaceans. Sweat glands. Now we also have sweat glands, right? These are coiled tubular glands situated. We know that by the structure. In the future, you will be doing the skin. They are the sweat glands are like this. So they are coiled tubular glands situated in the dermis. Learn the area, like where are they situated? In the dermis. And they're connected to what? They're connected to a sweat duct, and they open through the sweat pore on the surface of the skin. Example, human skin, right? Present in the human skin. Sword glands. They are paired glands found near the eyes to excrete excess salts. Example, marine birds. That means if you have seen these marine birds like gulls, they have these different eyes, right? In the edge of the eye, you can see there are salt glands. Salts are collected and they excrete excess salts, right? The examples are marine birds and marine reptiles, right? Kidney. These are the major excretory and osmoregulatory organs. Highlight this part of all vertebrates. MCQ point. And this was asked in a previous MCQ, and I think one of the people that I know got this wrong in one of the MCQs and during their relevant times. Wanaki got that wrong, and actually because of that she lost the chance to go to medical faculty. She thinks because of that only she lost the chance. We don't know about that, but she thinks like that. So yeah, maybe because of that, right? Okay, by 1 mark you can lose that chance, right? MCQ mark is very important. MCQ marks are very important. So I will ask the question now, right? I'm going to say in marine birds, salt glands, give me a second. Yeah, in marine birds, the salt glands, the main excretory organ of marine birds and reptiles is the salt gland. Is it true? Is it false? I need a answer. Is it true? Is it false? False. Yes. Why? Because marine birds are also vertebrates, right? Birds and reptiles are vertebrates, right? So their main excretory organ is the kidney, not the salt gland. That Aki got this wrong actually. She has written, they have asked what is the main excretory organ, and she has underlined it as salt gland. But no, it's the kidney, right? It was an old syllabus past paper. I can't remember. I searched in the Pacer book actually, but it wasn't there. So I thought of giving that question made by myself. It's like made by myself, so that you get that idea, right? Searched it but couldn't find it. Anyways, let's go for the questions. This is the 2019 question. Which of the following responses correctly indicates the main nitrogenous excretory product of the given animal group? When you're reading a question, always underline whether they are asking the correct one or the incorrect one. They're asking for the correct one, right? Correctly indicates the main nitrogenous excretory product. Mammals. Mammals means us, right? Mammals excrete urea, not uric acid. Therefore, this is wrong. Then birds. Birds, what do birds excrete? They excrete uric acid. So therefore, this is wrong. Then frogs. Frogs are amphibians, right? Amphibians means terrestrial, right? That means we learned about the aquatic amphibians excrete ammonia, but terrestrial amphibians excrete urea. Therefore, this is also wrong. Sharks, urea, that is correct. Insects, not ammonia. Insects, uric acid, right? Uric acid. Therefore, the correct answer is the fourth one, right? Correct answer is the fourth one. Okay. Now let's go for the next question. The 2020th question. Which of the following excretory structures of animals opens into the digestive tract? We know they are the malphigian tubules because we just learned that the blind and tubules opens into the digestive tract. So even without looking at the other answers, you can easily underline this answer, right? Okay. And then, excretory structures of crustaceans, annelids, and flatworms are respectively. Crustaceans, we know it's salt glands. Sorry, it's not salt glands, green glands. Green glands, not salt glands. Sorry. Annelids, what do annelids have? Do they have nephridia, malphigian tubules, or flame cells? They have nephridia, right? They have nephridia. I think in your RB, they have given it as I can't remember. In our resource book, it wasn't there. In the old resource book, it wasn't there. In the new resource book, there's metanephridia or something like that. There's a new word for that. Yeah, I have to check that. I have to check that it is in the new syllabus. In the old syllabus, it wasn't there, so you have to go with your new syllabus. Actually, this book is the new syllabus book. Okay, this is the new syllabus book. But in our resource book, I mean about the unit 3. I'm talking about the unit 3 part. Okay, this is the osmoregulatory part. I'm talking about the unit 3, Annelida and all those parts. Phylum Annelida, phylum Mollusca, and all those parts, right? Okay. Now let's go for this part. Then annelids, it's nephridia. Flatworms, it's flame cells. So this is the 2021 questions. You can easily grab these marks, right? All these questions, all the osmoregulatory and excretory questions were basically from this part. These are all the MCQs which were asked. I can't even believe this. I didn't actually assess this during my A-level times. I didn't have time to make such notes and, assess all these things. But today I got surprised after making this note. All these MCQs, I studied all these things like hell. Okay, when I was at your point, like, when I was doing my A-levels, I studied all these things. They're useful. They're coming for your structure. But they didn't come for MCQs. I was surprised because they usually ask those for the model paper MCQs. Right? Okay. So the answer is the fifth one. And here we can again see the 2022. Can you see a bit of a pattern over here? In 19, it was asked in the 23rd. In 2024, 23rd. So they basically asked this question in the 23rd area, in the 23rd, 24th questions, right? And the 44th one in 2022 and 2023, they have asked in the A, B, C, D answers, like the correct option answers, right? Okay. Now, which of the following combination is or are correct regarding the main nitrogenous excretory product? Now, remember, this is A, B, C, D, E question. So, A, birds, uric acid. Yeah, birds, they excrete uric acid, therefore correct. Bony fishes, ammonia. Yeah, that is also correct. Adult amphibians, ammonia. No, it's actually the young amphibians, right? The young amphibians which excrete ammonia. The adult amphibians are terrestrial. They excrete urea, right? Sharks, urea, correct. Land snails, urea, no. Uric acid, right? Therefore, answer is A, B, D. Answer is 1, right? Okay. Then the 45th one, let's go through that also. This is my paper, 2023 one. So you can see, select the correct statements regarding the nitrogenous excretory products of animals. Okay, here it should be animals. A, secretion of ammonia occurs in human nephrons. Secretion of ammonia occurs in human nephrons. Secretion of ammonia occurs in human nephrons. Let's keep that for a while. B1, energy cost for urea production is less than that of ammonia production. No, energy cost for urea production is actually higher, right, than ammonia production. You need more energy, right? Therefore, this answer is wrong. Uric acid is the main nitrogenous excretory product of land cells. Therefore, this is correct. Sharks excrete urea as the main nitrogenous excretory product. That is correct. Urea is less toxic than uric acid. They're saying urea is less toxic than uric acid. No, it is more toxic than uric acid, right? Therefore, this is wrong. Then A1, secretion of ammonia occurs in human nephrons. We still didn't come to that part, but if I show you that part, now you might have a curiosity to know whether this is correct or not, right? We go to that part. In nephrons, if we now, these are the nephrons, right? This is the structure of the nephron, right? This is the proximal convoluted tubule, the loop of Henle, distal collecting duct. So you can say ammonia gets reabsorbed, right? Ammonia gets reabsorbed. Therefore, that statement is correct, right? That statement is correct. Sorry, ammonia gets secreted, right? Ammonia gets secreted, not reabsorbed. Secreted means, I will tell you what secretion and reabsorption are. Let's not get confused. Let's go step by step, right? Okay. So the correct answer, the secretion of ammonia occurs in human nephrons, is also correct. So therefore, A, C, D, answer is what? Answer is 2, right? Answer is 2. If you want, now since all these questions are in one page, take a screenshot. It would be useful. Wait, I'll erase this part. It will be useful. So you do not have to look at all the questions when you're doing that, when you're studying this topic. Everything is in one page, right? Take a screenshot. I will enlarge this. You can take a screenshot. Okay. I hope that you have taken a screenshot. We'll give you 1 minute. I'll drink some water till then. Okay, now I will move on to the next part. Okay. Human urinary system. Okay. Human urinary system, they will ask you what are the structures or what are the organs present in the human urinary system. It contains, this is an SCQ part, you can write SCQ. So they can ask, what are they? 2 kidneys, 2 ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. What are the kidneys? These 2 are the bean-shaped organs are the kidneys, right? And the one which carries this urine, the urine produced in this kidney to the bladder is called the ureter, right? It is called the ureter. And the one, and from the bladder there is a tube to excrete into the outside, right? That is called the urethra. Urethra, right? This is ureter, this is urethra, right? And this is the bladder. So let's go through the functions. These are SCQ points. This table is an SCQ point. They will ask you what is the main function of the kidney. Then you should write in SCQs. They're very strict. They're looking for the exact wording. So make sure you write the exact wording. What does the kidney do? They produce urine to excrete. Why do they produce urine? To excrete, right? To excrete what? To excrete waste products while maintaining osmotic balance and acid-base balance, right? So that is the function of kidney. Then what is the function of ureter? You can think and write, right? Ureter receives the urine from kidney, and what does it do? It sends it to the blood. See, it receives the urine from kidney and sends it to the bladder. Then urinary bladder, we temporarily store the urine until we need to go to the washroom, right? Now let's go to the urethra. Urethra provides passage through which urine is stored in the bladder, leaves the body. So this is the passage. This is the passage through which urine stored in the bladder leaves the body. So those are easy. Now this part was asked in either 2022 or either in our paper. I think in my paper. Yeah, in our paper. 2023 paper this was asked. I knew that I had a gut feeling they would ask this. Something told me they would ask this. So before I went for the exam, I'm actually studying till many people say we can't study till the last moment, our mind gets messed up. There are people like that. There are different types of people, right? For me, for almost all my exams, I studied till the last moment. Here, I actually thought I won't do that because I've seen a lot of island rankers not doing that. I also thought of not doing that. I had the plan, but I got sick. So because of that, I had to study till the last moment. So you also try to study up everything before you examine keep, because we don't know, like even if we get sick, we have actually studied everything. We do not have to worry about anything, right? Okay. Location of the kidneys. Two kidneys are located on the posterior abdominal wall. Posterior means what now? You might wonder what is posterior. Now, if you take the human body like this stomach side is the anterior part. This back area is the posterior part, right? So they are located on the posterior abdominal wall. Hope you know what the abdominal region is. This is the thoracic region. The chest area is the thoracic region. The stomach area is the abdominal region, and they are located on either side of the vertebral column. If you take the vertebral column, they are located on either side, behind the peritoneum and below the diaphragm. Right kidney is slightly lower than the left. Why is the right kidney lower than the left? It's basically due to the presence of the liver, right? Due to the presence of the liver, the right kidney is a bit lower than the left kidney, right? Okay, now when we look like this is the left, this looks like this is the left side, but this is actually the right side, right? When it comes to biology drawings, right? Okay, all right. Blood supply. The kidney receives blood from aorta via the renal arteries and renal veins return blood to the inferior vena cava, right? Vena cava. So it's like this now. Aorta brings the blood to all our organs, but it breaks down into different branches. The branch that carries blood to this kidney is the renal artery, and from the renal artery, the blood which contains the blood which contains carbon dioxide and all, it gets transferred into the lungs using the inferior vena cava, not the lungs, to the heart using inferior vena cava, where it is transferred into the lungs to convert the bad substance into good substances to be pumped again, right? Okay. Gross structure of the kidney. Gross structure of the kidney. Kidney is a bean-shaped organ which is held in position by a mass of fat. Now, this is a SCQ point. Now, this was given as an essay. They have asked this as an essay in the 2022. Right, 2022, this was an essay. So, no need to study this for an essay anymore, but study it for SCQs, right? Okay, in the launch, so how is it held in position? It is held in position by what? By mass of fat. And they can ask you this as an MCQ because I saw this in a model paper recently when I'm discussing for the 2024 students. I came across this part. They have said it is being held by a mass of fibers or something. By a mass of fibers. Then it's wrong, right? It's held by a mass of fat. And both are surrounded by a fibrous connective tissue. Yes, both are surrounded by a fibrous connective tissue. Here they haven't drawn the fibrous connective tissue, right? They have just directly marked the what you call the renal cortex, renal medulla, and renal pelvis, right? Okay. In the longitudinal section of the kidney, 3 areas of tissues can be seen to the naked eye. This is also an important part because they can ask you in an MCQ in the cross section of the kidney, 3 areas of tissues can be seen to the naked eye. This is not in the cross section. This is in the longitudinal section, right? So, what are these 3 areas? They are the outer fibrous capsule. Okay, they are the renal cortex and the inner renal medulla. So if a person who don't know this, who didn't read the resource book, but have just memorized this diagram, would write it as renal cortex, renal medulla, renal pelvis. But no, the three areas are the outer fibrous capsule. That's why I told you they haven't drawn this fibrous connective tissue over here, right? They should have drawn that, but they haven't drawn it, right? They are the outer fibrous capsule, renal cortex, and the inner renal medulla. Okay. So, cortex and medulla are supplied. You can mark that as an SCQ point. Cortex, don't write SCQ, use that star, okay? Cortex and medulla are supplied with blood vessels and tightly packed with excretory tubules. Yes, these what you call cortex and medulla, both are supplied with blood vessels and they're tightly packed with excretory tubules. In the future, like this, I mean, over here you will learn what these tubules are. Okay, all right. For now, just learn tubules are there. Renal cortex is granulated due to the presence of glomeruli. Now you can't see it over here, okay? But if you take a good image, you can see granules, right? You can see granules. That is granulated due to the presence of glomeruli. Now you will wonder what glomeruli is. Glomeruli is, I will show you the diagram of the glomeruli. Yeah. This is a glomerule. No, this is the glomerulus. The ball of, here you can see this ball, right? This ball of, what do you call, arteries and veins, the blood capillaries. Now the arteries and veins, the blood capillaries is called the glomerulus, right? So due to the presence of glomerulus, it appears to be granulated, right? Renal cortex is granulated due to the presence of glomeruli. Medulla is composed of renal pyramids, right? Renal pyramids which have striated appearances. Okay, so therefore, now let's read that part also, which has striated appearances. Pieces of pyramids project into the renal pelvis through renal papillae. So they basically have this structure called renal pyramids. Okay, we are not going to learn what renal pyramids are. They have a structure called the renal pyramids, and they give it a striated appearance. What do you mean by striated appearance? An appearance like this, right? Striated appearance. The pieces of pyramids. Now, the pyramids have their ends, right? The ends like this, right? They get projected into this renal pelvis area, right? Through renal papillae, right? Through renal papillae. Renal pelvis leads to the ureter. As now, these are blood vessels. They get lead to the ureter, right? So, renal artery and renal vein pass through the pelvis. You can see this renal artery and renal vein also pass through the pelvis, right? So that is the structure of longitudinal section, the gross structure of the kidney. Okay. Now let's go through this area. Structure of nephron. Now we are going to learn this nephron. Now the nephron are actually the tubules that were present in the renal cortex and the renal medulla, because we learned here, see, cortex and medulla are supplied with blood vessels and tightly packed with excretory tubules, right? These tubules are the nephrons. Okay. All right. Nephron is the structural and functional unit of the kidney. When you are learning the liver, you are learning the functional unit. When you are learning the animal, like, organisms, you are learning the basic structural and functional unit, the cell. So in most of these organs, you have to remember the structural and functional. In liver, structural unit is different. Functional unit is different, right? So in the kidney, nephron is the structural and functional unit, right? And there are over millions of nephrons in each kidney. That is an important point, because they can say there are thousands of nephrons in each kidney. A person who has not read the resource book carefully would just underline it as correct, because they know there are a lot of nephrons, right? Okay, there are two types of nephrons. What are the two types of nephrons? The cortical nephrons that reach short distances to the medulla, and juxtamedullary nephrons that extend deep into the medulla. This is an SCQ point. They can ask you what are the two types of medulla. So you have to write cortical and juxtamedullary, or they can ask you which nephron reaches short distance to the medulla. This is how I remember it at that time, because I remembered a lot of things. It was hard for me to remember the small parts also. So I used a lot of tips. Okay, one tip that I used was, if you see the spellings of the word cortical, it's small, right? It's small. And if you see the spellings of this juxtamedullary, it is very long, right? It is very long. So therefore, this is the one which extends deep. This is the one which extends short distance to the medulla, right? So that's how I learned it. Majority of the nephrons are cortical nephrons. That is a good MCQ point, right? Majority of nephrons are cortical nephrons. Okay. Now we have to learn what this nephron is. A nephron is a single long tubule. Now they will tell you where the tubule ends and where the tubule starts and where the tubule ends, right? The tubule is closed at one end, forming the Bowman capsule, which is surrounded by a ball of capillaries. Now I will draw the tubule, the nephron's basic structure. The glomerulus is not a part of the nephron. A glomerulus is actually a ball of capillaries. Okay. So this is the nephron. Now this is the Bowman capsule. Bowman capsule, and here comes the PCT. And then here comes the loop of Henle. And here comes the DCT. Collecting duct is not a part of the nephron. Right? So these are the parts of the nephron. That is it. Ball of capillaries, that means the glomerulus not included and the collecting duct not included. Right? You can write down those points. Collecting duct and glomerulus are not part of the neuron, are not parts of the neuron, Glomerulus and collecting duct are not parts of the neuron. Right. So the tubule is closed at one end. See, this is closed, forming Bowman's capsule. This Bowman's capsule surrounds a ball of capillaries. See, it surrounds a ball of capillaries called the glomerulus. The other end of the tubule joins to what? The collecting duct. This is the collecting duct. They're talking about what the tubule consists of, or what the nephron actually consists of. Nephron consists of the Bowman's capsule number 1, PCT, proximal convoluted tubule, the loop of Henle, and the DCT. When you see this is a bit difficult to look at, but we have to study these diagrams that they have given, because they have not told us not to, you do not need to learn to draw this diagram, right? In unit 2, they have mentioned that in different parts, but in this unit, since they haven't said that, we have to learn this, right? Okay. All right, let's go through that part. Now, the capillaries, right? You can see from the ball of glomeruli, from the ball of blood capillaries, the blood capillaries forms a network around the PCT and the DCT. Those blood capillaries are called the peritubular capillaries. And there is also from this ball of blood capillaries, another tube goes and another set of capillaries goes into this loop of Henle, covers the loop of Henle. That is called the vasa recta, right? And you can see over here, we will learn about afferent arteriole and efferent arteriole, then you can study that easily. This is the Bowman's capsule, and then you can see the other parts are the ones we already know. So is this structure hard to label? No, right? We just have to learn the two types of capillaries present, the peritubular and the vasa recta, right? Okay, now let's go through the Bowman's capsule. I will come to the efferent arteriole because it's explained over here, okay? All right. Bowman's capsule or the glomerular capsule. This is the expanded and closed end of the tubular structure of the nephron. Yes, now we know this is the expanded and it is closed. Other parts are thin, right? This is expanded, right? It is a cup-shaped and double wall structure. Why do you call it double wall? See, you can see one wall over here like this, another wall over here like this, right? So it's double walled, right? Okay, let's see. Inner layer of Bowman's capsule consists of single layer of flattened cells. Now the inner layer actually consists of a flattened layer of epithelial cells specialized for filtration. The outer layer is composed of the simple squamous epithelium, right? Simple squamous epithelium. Now, squamous epithelium, what is it specialized for? When we learn unit 5, first part itself, we know it is specialized for diffusion and leakage of fluids, right? Diffusion and leakage of fluids, right? And yeah, so let's go through the other part. Space between the inner and outer layers is known as the capsular space. The space between the inner outer layer is what you call as the capsular space, which is responsible for receiving the glomerular filtrate. If you can see over here, no, you cannot really see over here the capsular space, but I will try to get a better diagram and send it to the group so that I think, can you send me the name of the group which you are in so that I can send you that diagram? Like from which group did you learn about the class? I can send that diagram to you, right? Since like you are the only one, I can send that to you because it would be important for you. That's why I'm trying to do that. Anyways, now let's go back into the lesson. I'll check this chat section. I'll check the chat section later. Space between the inner and outer layers is known as the capsular space, which is responsible for receiving of the glomerular filtrate. The glomerular filtrate passes through three major tubular regions of the nephron: proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and the distal convoluted tubule. Right, now we are going to learn about the glomerulus. Glomerulus is a ball of capillaries which is surrounded by the Bowman's capsule. Now, this is a SQ point. They will ask you, what is glomerulus? The glomerulus is a ball of capillaries which is surrounded by Bowman's capsule. It's easy to even write by thinking, right? You don't have to memorize it, right? The nephron is supplied with blood from the afferent arteriole. Now we know what you call this renal artery gets divided. Renal artery, when it branches into the afferent arteriole and it forms the wall of blood capillaries over here, and again it goes, moves into the what do you call the network of tubules or the nephrons as efferent arteriole. So the arteriole which takes the blood into this wall of blood capillaries is the afferent arteriole, which starts from A. A comes before E, right? So A is the one which brings. E is the one which this arteriole won't contain the waste materials, because here there's not going to be any diffusion of carbon dioxide or anything like that. Here also it's going to be the blood again over there, but this blood wouldn't contain much of the substances which were there initially, because most of the substances would get into this Bowman's capsule, right? Now it's like this. Now this is the Bowman's capsule. When blood comes over here like this, it gets filtered into the Bowman's capsule, right? Most of the blood goes, or most of the cells in the blood goes into the Bowman's capsule, and only some blood remains in the efferent arteriole. Some blood remains to be passed into the efferent arteriole, right? And the efferent arteriole plays a major role in selective reabsorption and as well as in secretion, right? Okay, so the nephron is supplied with blood from the efferent arteriole. The blood vessel leading away from the glomerulus is the efferent arteriole. Efferent arteriole has a smaller diameter. It's because of this reason. Now this afferent arteriole will have a large diameter, okay, and then afferent, okay, A, and then it gets converted into a ball of blood capillaries like this, and then efferent arteriole is formed. Now the reason why it's done like this is the Bowman's capsule. The reason why it is done like this is because this blood can stay in this blood in the blood capillaries can stay in contact with the Bowman's capsule for a long time, right? When this is thin, then the blood flow is slow, right? You can't easily go through a thin area, but from a thick area, a large number of blood can easily pass, right? So therefore, here the blood is going to retain, right? Because they can't easily move through this area, so they have a lot of time to stay in contact with the Bowman's capsule, so most of them get diffused. Filtered, right? They get filtered. That is the purpose, for filtration only, for the ultrafiltration purpose only. Afferent arteriole is thick and efferent arteriole is thin, right? Efferent arteriole has a smaller diameter than the afferent arteriole. This modification is important for increasing blood pressure in the glomerulus. We know when blood gets collected up over here like this, the pressure of blood increases, right? Pressure of blood increases. Therefore, from high pressure to low pressure, ultrafiltration takes place very easily, right? Okay. Efferent arteriole form two capillary networks. One forms the peritubular capillaries, which surrounds the proximal and convoluted tubule, which forms the proximal and distal convoluted tubule, right? So the efferent arteriole, from the efferent arteriole, it forms two capillary networks. One is the peritubular capillaries, and the other is the vasa recta, right? Peritubular capillaries and the vasa recta. Peritubular capillaries surround the proximal and distal convoluted tubule. Vasa recta surrounds the loop of Henle. right? Vasa recta surrounds the loop of Henle, and peritubular capillary surrounds the proximal and distal convoluted tubule, right? Okay, proximal convoluted tubule, it is comparatively longer and wider. It is comparatively longer and wider than the distal convoluted tubule. Remember this as an MCQ point. They can tell you DCT is longer and wider than PCT. That is false. It's the PCT which is longer and wider than the distal convoluted tubule, right? So you can remember it like this. Now, distal convoluted tubule, D comes first in the alphabet, right? P comes next in the alphabet. So P is a bit large, right? That means if we take the positional number, P is going to have a high positional number in the alphabet, right? D is going to have a low positional number, right? Because it's going to be like the fourth letter, right? P is going to be somewhere in the middle, right? Therefore, the proximal convoluted tubule, since it has a large positional number, it is going to be longer and wider. It's a small tip to remember that PCT is the one which is longer and wider. Otherwise, we forget these important points when studying, right? When we go to the exam. Okay. This is lined by simple epithelium, which has been specialized for selective reabsorption of substances, right? So this is lined by simple epithelium. You have to learn the particular epithelium type also that lines that particular tubule. So this is lined by the simple epithelium, and this is specialized for selective reabsorption of substances. We'll learn what this selective reabsorption is. Wait for now. So it is specialized for selective reabsorption of substances like nutrients, ions, water from the glomerular filtrate, right? Loop of Henle. Now, what is this loop of Henle? It is the U-shaped part of the nephron with what? With descending limb, ascending limb, and lined by simple epithelium. Here also lined by simple epithelium. Here also lined by simple epithelium. So if someone asks you what is the definition of what is the loop of Henle, you could be able to easily explain. Even without memorizing this, you can explain. It is a U-shaped part of the nephron with descending limb, ascending limb, lined by simple epithelium, right? And one major important MCQ point is lining of the descending limb of loop of Henle is specialized for water reabsorption as it allows free movement of water. So this is actually specialized for reabsorption of water. But in the ascending limb, this ascending limb, it doesn't allow water reabsorption. It doesn't allow water secretion either. Nothing is allowed. That means water cannot move in and out, right? So that means it is impermeable to water, right? Okay, so those are MCQ points. Impermeable to water. The ascending limb is impermeable to water, right? Distal convoluted tubule, again, see, it is lined by simple epithelium which has been specialized for selective reabsorption. Same thing, right? But distal convoluted tubule is thinner and what? Thinner and smaller, right? Thinner and shorter. Thinner and shorter, right? It leads to the collecting duct. We know that DCT is the one which leads into the collecting duct, right? Process of urine formation. Now we're going to learn about the urine formation. This is a SCQ. There are three processes. They will ask you what are the three processes in urine formation. Ultrafiltration, selective reabsorption, and secretion are the three processes. Okay. Now let's go through each part. Ultrafiltration. Filtration of the blood under high pressure into the cavity of the Bowman's capsule is called ultrafiltration. We know the afferent arteriole brings in the blood, and there is a ball of blood capillaries like this, and then a thinner afferent arteriole leaves like this, right? So over here, high pressure is built up because of that blood is going to move into the Bowman's capsule, and this process is called ultrafiltration, right? So what is ultrafiltration? Not just filtration. Filtration of the blood under high pressure into the cavity of the Bowman's capsule is the ultrafiltration. Second one, filtration occurs through capillary walls of the glomerulus and inner wall of the Bowman's capsule. Yes, the glomerule has, now glomerulus is the wall of capillaries, right? We know the capillaries have a wall, right? And also they are permeable, right? If you have done the unit, the circulatory system, we learn it over there, right? So they are permeable, and also the inner wall of the Bowman's capsule, through that only this filtration take place, right? Blood capillaries of glomerulus are porous. Yes, we know they are permeable actually, and cells lining the Bowman's capsule are specialized for filtration of small size molecules and ions. Okay, let's see what are these small molecules and ions. This small specialization allows water. Okay, they allow water, number one. They allow and small solids through the blood capillaries. But due to their large size, blood cells, platelets, large molecules such as plasma proteins do not pass. We will ask you what are the molecules which do not pass into the Bowman's capsule. That is an SCQ point. You should write blood cells because they are large, right? Blood cells are large. Platelets are large, right? They cannot be filtered, right? And also large molecules such as plasma proteins, right? Those are the three things. Now let's see what are the things that pass, right? So the filtrate in the Bowman's capsule, that means after it goes into the Bowman's capsule, after something is filtered, we call this the filtrate, right? So the filtrate in the Bowman's capsule contains what? Water, ions, amino acids, all the small substances, right? Glucose, vitamins, nitrogenous waste like urea, and small molecules, right? Small molecules. The composition of the glomerular filtrate is similar, highlight this point. Composition of glomerular filtrate is similar in composition to plasma with exception of blood cells, platelets, and plasma proteins. So it is similar to plasma but without blood cells, platelets, and plasma proteins, right? So hope you understood the ultrafiltration process. Give me a second. Okay. All right. Selective reabsorption. The process through which useful molecules, ions, and water from the glomerular filtrate are recovered and returned to the interstitial fluid. Now, from the glomerulus, if we take the glomerulus, if we take the glomerulus, sorry for that. If we take the glomerulus like this, now from the glomerulus, now this is the Bowman's capsule. When the filtrate enters the Bowman capsule, it goes into the PCT, loop of Henle, DCT, collecting duct, and into the ureter, right? Into the ureter. And then it's going to get excreted. So, will the water, will the ions, will the amino acids, will the glucose get excreted? What will happen if they get excreted? That means all the useful substances are going to get excreted, right? So we should save these substances. They got filtered because they were small, but they didn't purposely get filtered. They didn't want to get filtered. They wanted to stay in our blood. But because of these pores and because of their small size, they had to get into this particular Bowman capsule. So now we should do something to move them into the interstitial fluid and the blood capillaries, right? So the movement of these molecules into the interstitial fluid, then into the blood capillaries are called what? Selective reabsorption. That means if now we cannot have our amino acids inside this, right? We cannot let our amino acids to be in waste, right? To get into waste, right? So we need to somehow absorb that, right? For that, we need to selectively absorb amino acids only, right? Into the blood capillaries, right? Through the interstitial fluid. That's why we have the peritubular blood capillaries and the vasa recta around the nephrons. Okay, so hope you understood that point. Okay, now let's read that part. The process through which useful molecules, ions, and water from the glomerular filtrate are recovered and returned to the interstitial fluid and then into the capillary network of tubules is called selective reabsorption. SCQ point. What is selective reabsorption? It is a process through which what? The useful molecules, right? Going from where to where? and from what to what, right? So these are the things that you need to learn under selective reabsorption. Most of the reabsorption from the glomerular filtrate back into the blood take place in the convoluted tubule. Highlight the word most of the reabsorption because some can take place through the loop of Henle as well, right? So most of the reabsorption takes place in the convoluted tubules, the PCT and the DCT, right? Ions, Na plus, water and malleable nutrients, glucose, amino acids are reabsorbed either active or passive. So the selective reabsorption can be active or passive depending on the concentration of them inside the interstitial fluid compared to the particular nephron, right? Okay. Secretion. Secretion is basically the opposite of selective reabsorption, right? So if we take this glomerulus and if we take the Bowman's capsule again like this, again the PCT, DCT, everything like this, and let's draw the blood capillaries in another color. Blood capillaries like this, what happens is now these blood capillaries can contain some harmful toxic substances which did not get filtered due to their large size. They did not get filtered due to their large size or due to several other reasons, because they stayed here for a short time. Some because sometimes we never know, right? Due to high temperatures, arterioles can get expanded, right? In such cases, we never know whether this stayed here for a long time, right? Due to that, these blood capillaries will still contain toxic substances. Now they need to somehow put it back into the excretory part, right? Put it back into the excretory, the nephron, right? It's the functional unit of the kidney, right? So to do that, that process is called secretion, right? Opposite of selective reabsorption. Let's go into that part now. So the process by which foreign molecules and substances not required to the body, including waste, are cleared from the peritubular capillaries and interstitial fluid into the filtrate is called secretion. Here they can give you a good MCQ. They can tell you SCQ includes the waste that are cleared from vasa recta. Vasa recta, no. Vasa, not from the vasa recta. It's from the peritubular capillaries, because here you can see here no secretion takes place because in the loop of Henle on the vasa recta is present. Here no secretion is taking place. Here only selective reabsorption is taking place. That in the convoluted tubules only the secretion, both the secretion and selective reabsorption takes place. Since the secretion takes place only in the convoluted tubules, peritubular capillaries are the only type of capillaries which are responsible, not vasa recta. So write down that point. You can write the same sentence and write vasa recta and put false to that part, right? Okay. Now they're telling us why secretion is required. Secretion is required, as I told you, they might not be entirely filtered due to the short time they remain in the glomerulus. Yes, due to ultrafiltration, most of the particles get filtered, and that is why they have that adaptation also. The afferent arteriole is thinner than the afferent arteriole. That is why they have the adaptation as well, to at least increase the time by a little amount, right? They have a short time, but you can increase the time, right? At least a little bit. So because of the short time, some harmful substances may not be entirely filtered. That is one reason. These are SCQ points. They can ask you these 3 SCQ points in short terms, right? What are the 3 reasons? May not be entirely filtered due to the short time they remain in the glomerulus. And the third one, substances that are secreted to the filtrate include H plus, ammonia, creatinine, drugs, excess K plus, right? Tubular secretion of H plus and ammonia are important to maintain the normal pH and in the blood. Now here they are not saying about, actually here only they are talking about the importance of secretion. This is also an SCQ point because they can ask you this for what are the substances which are secreted. The substances that are secreted include H plus, ammonia, creatinine, drugs, penicillin. What are the 2 types of drugs? Penicillin and aspirin, right? Penicillin and aspirin. Sometimes they can give you tetracycline. Tetracycline is also a drug. It's an antibiotic, just like penicillin. So they can tell you tetracycline. Is tetracycline included here? But you might wonder, okay, it is also, why have they given tetracycline? Is it now? We've never got anything like that, but maybe it sounds correct. But no, just put correct for the answers which are in your RB, right? Tetracycline comes in microbiology at the end. There you will learn tetracycline is also antibiotic, right? Okay. And excess K plus. So these are the substances which are secreted. Tubular secretion of H plus and ammonia important to maintain normal pH. Now, in the blood, if H plus is there, what happens? It decreases the pH. That means acidic medium. If ammonia is there, what happens? It increases the pH, right? Increases the pH. That means what? Basic conditions, right? So it is important to maintain the normal pH in the blood by the formation of NH4 plus in the urine. So what happens is they get diffused into the urine and there it forms NH4 plus, right? Secretion occurs. This is actually called buffering. You will learn this in chemistry in physical under physical chemistry. We will learn that part, buffering, you know. Secretion occurs in the proximal and distal convoluted tubules. Secretion may be either active or passive. They will tell you secretion happens in the loop of Henle. Then true or false? False, right? Secretion happens in the proximal and distal convoluted tubules. Okay. Glomeruli filtrate in the Bowman's capsule, which contains all the substances in the blood except blood cells. So we know there are no blood cells, there are no platelets, there are no large plasma proteins, right? At this region, we're talking about the PCT. That means the first part of the nephron, right? The PCT, selective reabsorption of ions takes place. What are the ions? Na plus, water, and valuable. Na plus is the ion. Selective reabsorption of ions takes place. So selective, now if I take the capillaries like this, peritubular capillaries like this, okay? Peritubular capillaries. This is around. It's not going inside. This is around. Okay, around the PCT, right? So if we take the PCT, you can see this blood. Now this PCT contains Na plus, glucose, and amino acids, water, right? So these are actually important substances to our blood. You should not let them get excreted, right? So they need to get selectively reabsorbed into the peritubular capillaries, right? So therefore selective reabsorption takes place in the PCT, Na plus, water, valuable nutrients, glucose, and amino acids, right? Nutrients, especially glucose, amino acids, are actively transported. Here, this is how I remember that they are actively transported. A and A, right? Amino acids actively transported. So amino acids and glucose both are nutrients. Nutrients are actively transported, right? So glucose and amino acids are actively transported. A and A, right? Yeah, sorry. A and A, right? Cells lining the tubule actively transport. Here you have to learn specifically what are the ones which are actively transported, what are the ones which are passively transported. They are asked in provincial MCQs most of the times, right? That means they have a chance that you have a chance. That means your level MCQ paper will stand a chance to get these type of questions, right? Okay. Let's go through that part. Cells lining the tubule cells lining the tubule actively transport Na plus into the interstitial fluid. Okay, so cells lining the tubule means basically this tubule, right? Yeah, this tubule, this yellow tubule that I've drawn, those cells will actively transport Na plus also. So what are the ones which are actively transported in the PCT? Amino acids, glucose, sodium plus are actively transported. That means actively transported by selective reabsorption into the blood capillaries, right? Into the interstitial fluid, right? So when Na plus gets out, what happens is, we know in our cells, in our cells, Na plus stays like NaCl, right? Salt, right? Basically salt. Sodium chloride is salt. NaCl. So Na plus and chloride ions are usually like that. They're like two close friends. They always stay together, right? Okay. So if we take the Na plus, when this Na plus is actively transferred, what happens is, since this Na plus has already gone now, this also wants to follow the Na plus, as there is a positive charge out over here, there is a negative charge out over here. This negative charge will get attracted to the positive charge. Therefore, chloride ions are passively reabsorbed. They're passively reabsorbed. So these are the ones which are actively reabsorbed in the PCT. These are the ones which are passively reabsorbed. Chloride ions are passively reabsorbed, right? So positive charge, and this transfer of positive charge of the tubule drives the passive transport of chloride ions, right? Proximal tubule also reabsorbs K plus and most of the bicarbonate by passive transport. And what are the other ions? K plus, not just chloride ions, K plus and also bicarbonate ions are also passively reabsorbed, right? So, okay. Passively reabsorbed. Reabsorption of bicarbonate in the filtrate contributes to the pH balance. When we know bicarbonate lowers our pH, right? It makes our blood acidic, right? It makes the, what do you call this? It makes the interstitial fluid. It makes our blood acidic, right? But what happens? What happens if now we need some amount of bicarbonate ions into our body fluid as well, right? We can't remove all the bicarbonate ions. To maintain a constant pH, we need to have some weak bases as well as weak acids, right? To maintain a constant pH, right? So for that, the required amount of bicarbonate ions are again selectively reabsorbed, right? Okay. As solutes move from when solutes move from this tubule, what happens is, here the concentration of water is going to be high, because it's going to get diluted when solutes move, right? Here, that means in the interstitial fluid, that means outside the yellow region, the concentration of water is going to be low. That means water will move from a high concentration to a lower concentration, down a concentration gradient, and diffusion of water is what you call as osmosis. So not just chloride ions, potassium ions, bicarbonate ions, but water is also reabsorbed passively, right? Write those things down. What are the things which are reabsorbed passively, reabsorbed actively in the PCT? Because when it comes to DCT, the things changes, right? Okay. So, a major portion of water reabsorption from the filtrate occurs at this site. Highlight that point. They will ask you where this most of the reabsorption of water takes place. It happens in the PCT. As the filtrate passes through the proximal convoluted tubule, secretion of specific substances. Now we are talking about the secretion. All this time we were talking about the selective reabsorption, right? Now we are talking about the secretion. Secretion of specific substances into the filtrate takes place. Cells lining the tubule secrete H plus by active transport. So these are the things which secrete H plus. That means from the blood capillaries into the tubule now. Okay. So H plus is actively transported. Ammonia is passively transported. We do not have to even study these things. They have already given the substances which are getting secreted, right? Ammonia, K plus, H plus, all these are getting secreted. But remember, in this part, K plus is reabsorbed. Okay. The PCT, K plus is reabsorbed. When we are coming to DCT, you learn that they are secreted. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So, yeah. As the filtrate passes through the proximal convoluted tubule, secretion of specific substances into the filtrate takes place. Cells lining the tubule secrete H plus and ammonia. Remember, H plus by active transport, ammonia by passive transport. Here the A part doesn't work, okay? In the upper part, it works with the amino acids, but here the A part won't work over here. But you can remember it like this. In the upper part, it worked in the right way. In the lower part, ammonia is by passive transport. Secreted ammonia act as a buffer to trap H plus, forming NH4 plus. So they basically form NH4 plus in the tubule, right? And this part also has a chance to come for an essay, but since they've asked in the 2022 question, 2022 part and osmoregulatory question, now this formation of urine, this is the formation of urine, okay? This part can be asked for any essay paper, that means for any exam, until your syllabus is going to be changed completely. So there is a chance, but the chance is also low since Already a question from osmoregulation was given in the 2022 paper, but the thing is, sometimes they can give repeated questions. For example, many people said that year was a targeted essay in our year, right? Our year in sense 2023, they said it was a targeted essay, but I was also asked before. I was also from the same part. So why did they guess that year would also come from that? Year would also come during a later session. They just guess, right? So we never know what would come. So this also has a chance. Everything has a chance, right? It's just like from the rumors and on everything. Only people get to know. Okay, these are the guessings. Okay, all right. In addition, some materials such as drugs and toxins have been metabolized in the liver, and these are also actively secreted. So you can see most of the secretion takes place actively, right, into the proximal convoluted tubule. As a result, now a lot of water is reabsorbed, right, and a lot of substance are also secreted into the PCT, right. So the filtrate in the PCT becomes concentrated, not dilute. It becomes concentrated as it passes through the proximal convoluted tubule. That is an MCQ point because they can tell the filtrate becomes dilute as it passes through the proximal convoluted tubule. That is false, right? The filtrate becomes more concentrated as it passes through the proximal convoluted tubule, right? Right. As the filtrate moves into the descending limb of loop of Henle, that means the loop of Henle is this part. So that means from the PCT it gets into the descending limb, right? Reabsorption of water. Here, remember, in the loop of Henle, no secretion takes place, only selective reabsorption, right? So passive reabsorption of water through osmosis occurs. See, here also water reabsorption is passive. And here, as water is moved away from the tubule, it gets more concentrated, right? Here also it got the filtrate got concentrated. Concentrated means less water, right? Here also this filtrate got very concentrated, right? So therefore, because more water is removed, right? Okay. Let's go through that part. The filtrate reaches the ascending limb, and then after going from the descending limb, it reaches the ascending limb. The ascending limb is impermeable to water. No water reabsorption takes place. But here, NaCl reabsorption takes place. You can see most of the Na plus, again here also, Na plus is reabsorbed by what? Active transport. As a result of losing N. Now, when Na plus is removed, you have to remember, even though they have not given, Cl minus moves passively, right? Cl minus moves passively. As a result of losing NaCl but not water, the filtrate becomes more diluted. Now here it got in the PCT and in the descending limb of loop of Henle, the filtrate got concentrated. But here, because no water is removed, but two different solutes were were removed from the filtrate, it got what? It got diluted again, right? It got diluted than before, right? They are not telling us it got very diluted. They're just saying it got diluted when compared to the previous situation, compared to the filtrate that was in the descending limb of loop of Henle. In the ascending limb, it's more diluted, right? Okay. The distal convoluted tubule, and from the ascending limb comes the DCT. The distal convoluted tubule plays an important role in regulating what? K plus and Na plus concentration of body fluids. Highlight that part because sometimes they can say that PCT plays an important role in regulating K plus and concentration. That is false. It is the DCT, right? Then what does the PCT do? What did we learn about the PCT? PCT, it's actually water reabsorption, right? Most of the water is reabsorbed in the PCT. That's what we learned, right? Now we can't find it over here, but I think I highlighted at that time a major portion of water reabsorption occurs at this site, right? Okay. Now let's go through this part. The distal convoluted tubule plays an important role in regulating K plus and Na plus. Now here in the PCT, K plus was what? K plus was reabsorbed. In the DCT, K plus is now secreted, right? Secreted. K plus is secreted into the tubules by what? Active transport. So the first few things were easy to remember. Now when it comes to DCT, it's a bit hard to remember what is active, what is passive. So until up to here, learn the active passive. For this part, always study before you go to, before you write the papers, always keep on studying this part. There are some areas that you need to keep on studying before every exam. So this should be an area like that, this small part. The upper parts can be easily remembered, right? You can draw two tables and draw what are the passive ones, what are the active ones. But here there are going to be differences from the PCT. That's why it's going to be a bit confusing, right? Okay. Now, yeah, into the filtrate, concentrate the amount of K plus secreted into the filtrate and the amount of Na plus reabsorbed from the filtrate can be varied according to the needs of the body. Distal tubule also contributes to the pH regulation of H plus and reabsorption of bicarbonate ions. Here also it happens, right? Here also bicarbonate ions were reabsorbed, and here H plus was secreted. Here also H plus was secreted. Bicarbonate are reabsorbed, right? Okay. At the distal convoluted tubule, passive water reabsorption can be increased under the influence of the antidiuretic hormone ADH to form concentrated urine. Now, when this hormone is present, what happens is the passive water reabsorption in the distal convoluted tubule can be increased, right? It can be increased. That means more water is reabsorbed. That means that the filtrate in the tubule gets more concentrated because less water, right? It gets more concentrated, and most of our water is saved, right? Most of our water is saved. That means when we drink water, if water is going to get excreted, there is no point, right? We need water to maintain a cool body temperature, right? We need some water for excretion, but what if everything gets excreted? Then what if a major portion gets excreted? Then it's going to be a big problem, right? So we have the ADH hormone to control that. ADH increases the passive reabsorption of water, right? To form the concentrated urine. What if we didn't have this ADH hormone? It would lead to diabetes. It's not in your RB. You are going to learn about diabetes mellitus only in your syllabus. It's going to learn to the diabetes called diabetes insipidus, right? Diabetes insipidus. In this case, dilute urine is produced. Dilute urine is produced. That means if you are passing a lot of water with the urine, if you're passing a lot of water with your urine, that means not just, I'm not talking about like once in a while. I'm talking about frequently. If this is happening, that means you've got diabetes insipidus, right? Diabetes mellitus is a different case that you'll be learning, and that you'll be learning in your second resource book. It happens due to a problem in the insulin production, right? It happens due to a problem in insulin production. There are two types of diabetes mellitus: type 1 diabetes mellitus and type 2 diabetes mellitus. You'll be learning about those things in your second resource book, right? Okay. Now, aldosterone. Now, there are two hormones. Antidiuretic hormone, we learned the function. Aldosterone secreted by the adrenal gland. Remember from where the aldosterone is secreted. Secreted by the adrenal gland stimulates increased reabsorption of Na plus and water and excretion of K plus. Okay. So it increases the reabsorption of Na plus and water. That means Na plus ions are needed, right, for us, and water is also needed, and it removes the K plus from our body, right? So this filtrate of the distal convoluted tubule leads to the collecting duct. Remember, collecting duct is not a part of the neuron, okay, nephron, okay. All right. As the filtrate passes along the collecting duct, filtrate becomes more concentrated and urine is formed. Why does the filtrate gets more concentrated? Because ADH keeps on acting on it. As ADH keeps on acting on it, water gets reabsorbed continuously. So that means urine becomes more concentrated, right? So aldosterone hormone stimulates active reabsorption of Na plus and passive reabsorption of water at the collecting duct, right? This aldosterone also stimulates the passive reabsorption of water. So that means it keeps on getting concentrated. The what you call concentration of urine in the collecting duct is highly concentrated. That means some of the urea will diffuse. Some of the urea will diffuse into the interstitial fluid back again. That means our blood will contain some percentage of urea no matter how much we excrete, because at the end this gets highly concentrated. It will definitely move away by diffusion, right? Because diffusion is the movement of substances from a high concentrated area to a low concentrated area, right? So therefore due to diffusion, definitely this urea will pass. So no matter how much we excrete from our bodies, some urine or some urea will remain in our blood, right? And that's not going to be harmful because we keep on excreting and we do not let the urea get accumulated in our blood, right? Okay, when producing dilute urine, the kidney actively reabsorbs salts without allowing water to be reabsorbed. If water is not allowed to be reabsorbed, that means water is going to remain in these ducts, right? In this nephron, right? That means ADH hormone is not acting on this. If ADH hormone acts, it will stimulate the passive reabsorption. Because ADH hormone is not there on it, water is not going to get reabsorbed. So because of this, because of this reason only, the diabetes insipidus condition takes place, right? Okay. Now let's go through these parts. Role of the hormones on the functions of the kidney. Refer osmoregulatory section of grade 13 for further details. Right now, this from the osmoregulatory part, they have asked about this part for us. That means actually not this part, about the glucose part, about the diabetes, about the glucose part. So there is less chance that this would come for an essay, because since it was asked in the 2023, it might not be asked in 2024 or 25, but we are not sure. So let's practice this. Sometimes they can ask you to fill in the blanks, right? Those questions can also be given, right? Label or, write down it as a cycle. You should be able to know these things, right? So they're basically taking about when our blood osmotic pressure increases, what is the role of hormone to bring it back into the normal level? How do we increase our blood osmotic pressure? When you eat a good burger, now if you have eaten, now at night, if you have eaten some salty foods, like, salty foods in the sense some junk food like burgers, pizzas and all, and if you go to sleep, in the middle of the night, sometimes you might have experienced this. In the middle of the night, you wake up due to thirst. You're very thirsty in the middle of the night. You search for water and you quickly drink water. You eat a lot of burgers or, some fast food, some junk food like that. Because these, junk food contains a lot of salt inside them, right? There are a lot of solutes like salts, right? Substances like salts, right? So due to this, it increases our blood osmotic pressure. At that time, we won't feel that. Later only our body, at that time also we feel that. But later only our body brings up the defense mechanism system. Now the defense actually brings the negative feedback mechanism to take it back into the normal level, right? Okay, so when the blood osmotic pressure is increased, the hypothalamus, you will learn what hypothalamus is in unit 5. In unit 5, the explanation is also given clearly. So if you, after doing this, you can read that you can read the second book also, the grade 13 book. So osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus detect it. Okay, and then it can have two functions, either this or either this, right? So hypothalamus can generate thirst, and then you drink water to reduce the osmolarity. And then it brings your blood osmotic pressure to normal. That means, what is the normal pressure? 300 milliosmol per liter. 300 milliosmol per liter, right? So this is what happens at night when you suddenly wake up after sleeping. When you suddenly wake up in the middle of your sleep, this is that process. But sometimes you might not wake up. Then during such cases, or you might be feeling lazy to wake up or something like that. In that cases, osmoreceptors in hypothalamus stimulate the posterior pituitary gland. The pituitary gland has two parts, the anterior and the posterior. So here the posterior pituitary gland is below the hypothalamus and in front of the hypothalamus. So it stimulates the posterior pituitary gland to secrete ADH. The posterior pituitary gland actually secretes two hormones. One is oxytocin, which we will learn in the future, and the other is ADH. So posterior pituitary gland increases the secretion of ADH. And what does ADH do? What is ADH? Antidiuretic hormone, right? It increases the reabsorption of water in the distal convoluted tubules and the collecting duct. Not by distal convoluted tubules, in the distal convoluted tubules and the collecting duct. And again, blood osmotic pressure returns to the normal temperature. So now, if your hypothalamus sends you the signal to wake up, if the hypothalamus did not send you the signal to wake up, this is what will happen. But hypothalamus usually send you the signal to wake up in the middle, right? So in most of the cases, you would drink water and then it would get inhibited, right? The blood pressure would come back into the normal level. So this is a negative feedback mechanism. Hope you understood that part, right? Now let's move on to the regulation of blood volume and blood pressure by renin. Now, since this is a webinar, I'm going very fast because this is a big topic. Some teachers might take 2 days in a theory class to finish this, but I'm taking only around 4 hours to complete this. So stay tuned, okay? All right, now what is this blood volume and blood pressure? Now when we meet up with an accident, a lot of blood will actually leak from our body, right? In that case our blood volume and blood pressure would go down, right? So blood pressure or blood volume drops, for example, due to dehydration or blood loss, right? They can ask you, how can our blood pressure drops? Then you have to write 1, dehydration, 2, blood loss, right? And then this blood loss is detected, and this lowered blood pressure is detected by sensors in the kidney. The bean-shaped organs, that means the kidney, detect this decrease in blood pressure, and it secretes the hormone. Now, during our syllabus, they had a big thing over here. There was this gland called juxtamedullary. Juxtamedullary apparatus. They had a gland like that, and they include so many things over here. In your new resource book, they have made it easy for you, right? So it secretes renin, and because of this renin, it converts the angiotensinogen from liver to angiotensin 1, right? Angiotensin 1. And then there is an enzyme called angiotensin converting enzyme. It converts angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, right? So the hormone liver converts this protein to another protein, and this enzyme acts on this angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2 because this is the one which is responsible, this hormone is the one which is responsible to act on the adrenal gland and the arteriole. So this can either act on the adrenal glands or this can either act on the arterioles. If it is due to actual, no, it's okay. I'm not going to say that part, otherwise we'll get confused with that part. So I was going to tell actually that is due to the dehydration part, but it's okay. Let's forget that part for now. So due to angiotensin 2, it can act on the arterioles, right? Now usually the arterioles are they are in their normal shape, right? What happens is when angiotensin 2 acts on this, they get constricted. When it gets constricted, the blood pressure increases, right? And it brings the blood pressure back into the normal level. So this is one way, right? Okay, second one is they can act on the adrenal gland. Then the adrenal gland, in the adrenal gland, aldosterone is produced, right? Yeah, the hormone, right? Then what does the aldosterone do? We learned aldosterone from the aldosterone, Na plus and water are reabsorbed, right? They stimulate that passive reabsorption of water and Na plus in the distal tubules, increasing blood volume and blood pressure. Now they usually do this in situation like blood loss and this in dehydration, but you do not have to know where we use this. It can either happen in both ways, right? It doesn't matter, the situation can happen in both ways. Here, because I'm saying due to blood loss, if you are going to constrict the arteries, I do not think you can do that. I mean, thinking practically, if the arterioles constrict, more blood will get lost from the damaged area, right? I mean, other parts itself, yeah, arterioles will get constricted, but if in the damaged area, arterioles are going to get constricted, that means high blood pressure, that means from high pressure to low pressure, more blood will move out, right? I'm just thinking practically and telling you. So you can also think practically and think more about that, right? Anyways, you do not have to know where we are using in which situation aldosterone is acting and in which situation arterioles contracting. You just need to know this whole process so that when MCQs are asked, you can answer. If this diagram is given and if they ask you to label, you can do it because question types can change. They have never asked fill in the blank question before. Sometimes they can do that, fill in the boxes question, right? And because in the previous cases, they have never asked you to write down a process like this, but out of the blue, they suddenly asked you this question in one of the papers, and from there onwards, they repeated that type of question, right? Sequences, right? So they can ask you such questions like that, right? Don't worry, this is a picture that I've taken. This is not in your RB, right? So role of kidney in homeostasis. Now these are some things that you need to memorize, but first understand what those things are. Maintaining solute concentration, these are for SCQs. At least try to learn 3 for SCQs, and the other things have an idea so that when you get it for your MCQ, you can write it, right? You know the correct answer, right? That means you have to know, you have to have a good idea about all these 6 points. But if it's hard to memorize all these things, try to at least memorize 3 things for the SCQs. Okay. So role of kidney in homeostasis, maintaining solute concentration and water balance. That is what? Osmoregulation, right? Excretion of toxic waste products from the body. That is excretion, right? Regulating blood pH through acid-base balance. Yeah, that is basically part of this excretion process, right? Controlling blood volume and blood pressure. That is what we've talked over here, right? Secretion of erythropoietin hormone that stimulates red blood cell production. So this kidney secrete the erythropoietin hormone, which acts on the red bone marrow to produce the red blood cells, right? And production and secretion of renin, an enzyme important in control of blood pressure. Yeah, we learned about that over here, right? Secretion of renin from the kidney, right? Okay, so those are the points that you need to learn over there. Now let's go through the disorders. Disorders related to the human urinary system, bladders and kidney stones. These are formed due to precipitation of urinary constituents, usually oxalates and phosphates, normally in urine. Now, these are formed due to what? Precipitation of urinary constituents like oxalates and phosphates. That's why people ask you not to eat sprats with tomatoes. When you eat sprats with tomatoes, oxalates are formed in our body. That compound is formed. And then there is a higher tendency that you can get kidney stones. That means for the sprat curry, you shouldn't put tomatoes, right? All right. We have learned it from the home sciences and everything. But later when we get to know the real reason behind this is because it forms the oxalate, right? And these kidney stones are also called as renal calculi. So you can see these kidney stones, they look like real kidney stones, and you use ultrasound. That means very high frequency sound to break these stones, right? If you are learning physics, one function of ultrasound is to break down kidney stones. Causes included, if you are not drinking enough sufficient amounts of fluids, you will get this. An alkaline nature of urine. Why does it get alkaline? Due to phosphates, right? Phosphates makes it alkaline. Alkaline nature of urine. Infections that can alter the pH of urine. Yeah, some infections which affects our urinary system can alter the pH. In that case, we can get kidney stones. Metabolic conditions can also cause kidney stones in our body. And family history from genetics also, you can get the kidney stone disease, right? Measures for prevention, you have to drink plenty of water, right? Kidney failure, this is due to the inability of the kidneys to function properly. Now, when the kidneys cannot function properly, due to some reasons, they have given the reasons, that is called kidney failure. So actually, in that case, waste products and excess fluid cannot be removed from the blood. In that case, they will get accumulated in the blood. And if they get accumulated, what happens is the person would die. So we have to come across with a solution, and that is called dialysis. Dialysis is done for patients with kidney failure. It is a process that means you have to be attached to a bed 24/7, 365 days. Be attached to a bed to remove the bad substances from our body and to give good pure substances into that means to now after that blood is removed again, that blood should be pumped, right? Otherwise there's going to be loss of blood, right? So that is called dialysis process. Dialysis are like artificial kidneys, right? Like artificial kidneys. It is a process of removing excretory products, excess salts and toxins from the blood by an artificial method. Now, what are the reasons for the kidney failure? 4 reasons. If you have diabetes, you can get kidney failure. If you have high blood pressure and you do not treat that, you can get kidney failure. If you have family history, that means genetics. See, here also genetics affected. Here also genetics affected. That can cause kidney failure. Getting older can also affect kidney failure. Then what is this chronic kidney disease? It is a condition of gradual loss of kidney function over time. That means this doesn't happen at once. Over time, there's going to be a gradual loss of the function of the kidney. There are many reasons for kidney failure. when you follow low salt, low fat diet, that means when you don't eat the enough amount of salt, when you don't take the enough amount of fat to your food, you can get CKD, right? Doing proper exercise. Oh, sorry. Actually, these are to prevent the CKD, right? So that means when you take high amounts of salt, that's why I also was wondering why low salt and low fat, because when you take high amounts of salt, it increases what? High blood pressure, right? High blood pressure means kidney failure over time, right? Here, one reason for kidney failure is high blood pressure. CKD is also a type of kidney failure, right? Okay, so you have to follow a low salt, low fat diet. You need to do proper exercise, because in order to make sure that all your cells are functioning properly, having regular checkups. When you do regular checkup, if you notice this gradual loss at the earlier stage, you can do something to prevent that, right? And you have to prevent smoking, because smoking is very harmful for most of the organs in our body, right? Chronic kidney disease of unknown or uncertain etiology in Sri Lanka. It is a condition of gradual loss of kidney function over time, same as CKD, but here we do not know why it is caused. That's why they say unknown etiology. The root cause of CKDU has not been definitively established yet, hence it is referred to as chronic kidney disease of unknown or uncertain etiology. However, it is different form of chronic kidney disease. It is not CKD, it is a different form, which is associated with conventional risk factors. Now, these are the risk factors. One is diabetes, just like kidney failure, high blood pressure, just like kidney failure, genetic disorders. Was it a kidney failure? Yeah, having family history, genetic disorders. Yeah, urinary tract problems, right? So these are the four reasons, four factors that they think that might, four risk factors that can occur due to, four risk factors that can affect, that can cause CKDU, right? Onset of the disease appears to be asymptomatic. So that means by the time you know that you got CKDU, it's untreatable, right? And when I searched for CKDU in the Google, I got our country. I got so many articles on our country. That means I think CKDU is prominent in Sri Lanka. So the onset of the disease, maybe it's because for fertilizers we are using this arsenic and all those things. We are spraying arsenic, and we are mostly, our staple food is rice. We are eating rice, so therefore we are actually eating this inorganic means this chemical fertilizers into our gut, and due to those reasons only I think this CKDU takes place, right? Not just because of high blood pressure and all those things, because of the bad chemical substances that we take inside our body, right? Okay, the onset of the disease appears to be asymptomatic, and by the time the patient seeks treatment, the kidneys have reached a stage of irreversible damage called the end-stage renal disease, ESRD. Many people, when after they finish the whole resource book, they forget this ESRD part, right? So remember this stage of, they will ask you what ESRD is. That is the stage of irreversible damage of CKDU. When don't write CKDU in the structure, write the full form, right? It's a chronic kidney disease of unknown etiology. Otherwise, they would think that you don't know. Right? In Sri Lanka, initially CKDU was prevalent among rural communities in North Central Province. North Central Province means over here, right? That means Madavachiya, Kabatigolava, Thadaviya, Madirigiriya regions, right? Those are the four regions. Try to remember these regions. I memorized these things. I don't know whether they would come or not, but to be on the safe side, I memorized those things, right? You could also do that, because no one tells us to study this part and that part. It's our responsibility to study everything and go, right? Uva, in the Uva province, it's the Giranduru Kotte. In the eastern province, it's the Dehiyatta Kanti. So, Madavachiya, Kabatigolava, Thadaviya, Madirigiriya, Giranduru Kotte, and Dehiyatta Kanti, right? So these are the 6 places where CKDU is prominent. Then what are the provinces? North Central Province, Uva, and the Eastern provinces, right? CKDU is also reported in, they are also reported in Northwestern, Southern. Good that it's not, okay, I don't know which province from you are in. I'm from the Western province. But anyways, somehow a solution should come for everyone, right? Because it's Sri Lankans that are going to get affected by this, right? Okay. All right. So So they are reported in northwestern, southern. It doesn't usually happen for everyone. If you are using filters, you can get rid of these diseases. If you are using filters, especially water from wells contains a lot of arsenic, right? So if you can use good filters and all, you can get rid of you can prevent these diseases, right? So central provinces, part of the northern province of the island. These are the provinces, right? And also, if you can boil the water, even if you don't have a, it's better. Like it won't kill the arsenic; it would kill the germs. I don't think boiling of water would really help, right? Boiling won't help, but filtration would definitely help, right? Okay. Exposure to heavy metals such as arsenic and cadmium through food and water. Okay. And when that is you can prevent that now. You mostly the people who live in people who live a medial life won't get these diseases, but people who live like really low quality lives, like the farmers in Sri Lanka, if you take now, they are really poor, right? If you take the farmers, they are the ones who are getting exposed to these fertilizers mostly, right? They are the ones who are going to depend on these fertilizers mostly. So there is a chance that they get arsenic poisoning and everything, and this can lead to CKDU disease. So for us, it's a bit low because when I searched for CKDU, it's mostly the pictures of Sri Lankan farmers that came up. So I was a bit surprised also, right? Okay. Usage of low quality utensils for preparation of foods. Now, if you are using this aluminium, aluminium dishes and everything to cook, aluminium utensils to prepare, aluminium spoons to prepare. If you bring a new aluminium and measure the mass of that aluminium, and then after around like 2 years measure the mass of that particular aluminium utensil, the mass would have decreased. Why? Where have they gone? They have gone inside our body, right? Into our stomach, right? That means aluminium is a hard metal, right? It has been collected in our gut, right? That causes CKDU, right? So therefore, it's better to cook in clay pots, right? Because clay is not a harmful material, right? Even if the clay gets dissolved and even if we digest it, there's not going to be a big effect when compared to like heavy metals like aluminium, right? High fluoride levels in water. Yeah, that could also cause CKDU. Now, these are actually the causes that they think can cause, like they are like the hypothesized causes, because they have not actually confirmed that these are the causes which can cause CKDU, but these are the causes that we think that could cause CKDU, something like that, right? Exposure to pesticides, like I said, farmers are the ones which are mostly exposed to these pesticides and fertilizers, right? Genetic factors, malnutrition and dehydration. If you are weak, if you don't have a good immune system, if you are weak and all, definitely you will get this CKDU, right? Okay, so that marks the end of the osmoregulatory and excretion part. That was a very quick session. We were able to complete it within 2 hours 30 minutes. I thought it would take actually 30. Yeah. Okay, bioseminar, right? Free webinar or something. I will send that part into almost all the groups, and I will send the information about the class details also into that group. So from next week, that means from this week onwards, I'm planning to start the 2025 official play paper class. If you are interested, if anyone is interested, if you have any friends, you can inform. The class fee is going to be just 3,000 rupees, but for that I'm going to do a lot of things, as you can see, in one day. Like it just taken 2 hours 30 minutes. I was able to complete the osmoregulation and excretion part. That means I will definitely be able to quickly cover up the most important, everything in the grade 13 book. It's possible to complete everything, especially putting more emphasis on the molecular biology part, the microbiology part, the applied biology parts, because those are the areas which students don't touch at all, and especially English medium teachers, the ones that I experienced, most of them are skipping those parts. They're just covering it by the surface. So to get a good in-depth explanation about all these things, if you want to join the class, you can send me a text, and if you have any friends, please send this message to everyone, because I will be starting 2025 classes very soon. And thank you for joining, and thank you for staying till the end of the class. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. All right. So you can leave and also study well, because this time is very important. You've got almost like 1 year, and during this 1 year, you can play a major game and you can convert your results into really good results during this 1 year. It's completely enough to get a really good A for biology, because many people ask, if I start now, will I be able to get 3 years or anything like that? Yeah, anyone can get 3 years at any moment, like any moment in the sense of 3 months before. Yeah, 3 months also possible. There are people like that, but I'm saying it's hard, right? It's challenging. You need to go with a plan, right? So for those students, I'm telling you, for those people, I'm actually doing that challenging part for the 2024 students. I have taken that challenge to convert their different levels of what do you call it? There, some people are in C's, some people are in B's, some people are in S. So my target is to bring all of them into an A by giving them personalized plans. So for you guys also, I'm planning to do such things. So if you're like, you can join and also study well. Good luck with everything. Thank you for joining. I will end the class. Oh, I'm not doing any physical classes because I'll be doing online classes, because I'm actually getting selected to either Ragama or Ruhuna Medical Faculty. So after that, I won't be able to do physical classes. I will be carrying out with the online classes, right? All right. Thank you for joining. I will end the session today for now. Okay.